These farmers grow one crop a year. They go to the casino when they plant those seeds. They put them in the ground and they have one chance. And if it doesn't turn out, their loss for the year is huge. It's not like a manufacturing company that can just do another round of widgets. These people have one chance. And so as a processor, we wear our hat that says, we understand where you are. We're a family of farmers too. And we're going to do everything we can to market your crop, no matter what.
Cindy Brown, thank you so much for joining for a Bean interview. I've been really looking forward to talking to you. You are called the Queen of Pulses by some, or really by many, and you absolutely deserve that title. From running one of the premier kidney bean processors in the world, really, to being the first female president of the Global Pulse Confederation, and so much more. You have a really impactful presence in Pulse world and really in food systems in general. So thank you for joining today. Looking forward to sharing your insights with folks. And on that note, I'd love you to introduce yourself in your own words, please, too.
Oh, absolutely, Chelsea. Thank you for this. This is really an honor to speak to you. Sharing this Queen of Pulses aspect, that does come from GPC. Being the only woman and having the heartfelt opportunity to be the president of that organization was very meaningful. But I'm not sure if you know, but I was the first female president of the U.S. Dry Bean Council as well. So, and congratulations to Courtney for coming into that position. I'm so proud of her. So delighted to see another woman actually being able to take that reign. So I'm, as you said, Cindy Brown. I'm the president or CEO of Chippewa Valley Bean Company. It's my family's business. My dad started this business as a vehicle to have a place to market the beans that he was growing on his own farm. And he started growing kidney beans and other beans in 1969. And Bush Brothers was our very first customer because they were 40 miles up the road, and Russell and Condon Bush were very good friends, and they used to spend a lot of time in those bean fields counting pods and trying to figure out just how many beans these plants were going to yield. And between the two of them and one of my other partners, Bob Walksmouth, they ordered combines, specialty combines from New York. And they were so interested in and excited to have this new crop coming in and to have these very special combines. And I remember the story that the combines came into Augusta on a flatbed of a rail car. And they all went over and they took a look at them and they said, oh my goodness, what have we gotten ourselves into? These things were anything but sophisticated. And you know what? They just learned by the seat of their pants. They did the job, and the rest is history. But they spent a lot of time together, and there's lots of Condon stories in my family. I grew up with him at my mom's kitchen table, and I guess I was very fortunate in that. So the history of Chippewa Valley Bean is really, Russell started growing kidney beans, and then farmers around him took a look and said, what are you doing? That looks pretty interesting. And soon more farmers were doing it. We saw more farmers in Minnesota and eventually from North Dakota and South Dakota as well. But, Russell went to Michigan, and he had the opportunity to meet with Dr. Wayne Adams. And Dr. Adams was the breeder in those days at MSU. And I think he was the guy who invented or who bred Montcalm. And that's been the standard dark red kidney bean variety forever. So Dad said, in fact, Chelsea, he said it over the weekend. I was so fortunate to meet Dr. Adams and to be able to speak with him over these years about growing kidney beans. And he was so sharing and so open with his information. And so, I look at what we've done and what the industry has done. And I say, we've been all very sharing. And it's a crop that there's lots of competition in, but for the most part, we're pretty friendly competitors. And if we find ways to help each other, I think we do that. So that's kind of the history of how Chippewa got started and why we're in the bean business. Dad was a corn and soybean grower. He grew cucumbers, 500 acres of machine harvested cucumbers, and life was too short to that. you had to do those 24 hours a day. So kidney beans were a little bit better, and they were a lot better than trying to milk cows. So there we are. We're in the kidney bean business.
You have so many accolades, it was hard to choose from. But yeah, I did know that you were also the president of the U.S. Dry Bean Council. I also love how you kind of grew up with the Bush family. There's a small company that nobody's ever heard about before, right? So no, and Chippewa's done so much. You've been a big part of that. And so a lot of times when people are getting kidney beans from Bush, maybe there's a bit of a connection there.
I came to Chippewa Valley Bean when I graduated from college. I had a degree, I have a business degree and an economics minor. But the oldest child in a family of farmers, I have a brother and a sister. My sister's younger than I am, and my brother's the youngest. But how fortunate I was that my dad allowed me to have the opportunity to lead the organization. Because, in agriculture, that's not just how it goes. It's usually the boy in the family that gets that chance. So, I think my mom and dad looked at us and said, hey, each of these children have their own strengths, and I think we'll put them into areas where they do the best. And that's what they did. So I was pretty fortunate.
For folks who don't know a lot about kidney beans, is there only one type of kidney bean, Sydney? You want to educate us a little bit on that?
You bet. So the basic kidney bean, Chelsea, is red. It's beautiful, mahogany colored, and usually it has looks like a little bit of a kidney. Though there's a lot of different types of kidney beans within the bean class, and there's been some eminent seed breeders over the years that have really done an amazing job on kidney bean seed. So from MSU to North Dakota to Washington to all kinds of folks, right? So kidney beans basically have that beautiful dark red color, and they are a little bit longer, and they usually look like a kidney. But you might have Montcalm and Red Hawk and Red Rover, and there's a multitude more, but it's pretty much all the same. And the majority of the kidney beans are used in cans, or some countries put them in glass jars, like Spain. The majority of the kidney beans that they use are actually done in a beautiful glass jar, and it takes a really special bean because everything's visible there. So it's interesting to see that.
Yeah, you want a beautiful bean. And there's also, a cannellini bean, but cannellini is actually a white kidney bean, right?
Yeah, and I know some of the work that you've done along with your previous mentor, Dr. Thompson, has been really very much about the white kidney bean, and they're delicious. If I wasn't all about a dark red kidney bean, my next favorite bean would be a white kidney bean. We bring a few of those in every now and then, and actually they're so delicious. They're one of those beans that is, when it cooks, it's really soft and tender and such a flavor carrier.
Yes. But it is also hard to be a red kidney bean. Those are fantastic beans, flavors, so many different ways you can use them. And like you said, they're gorgeous. They're perfect for if you're going to have it in a jar and everything's visible, that's a good bean to have. So what is it about your region, the area of the U.S. that your growers are in, that you're in, that your family has grown in, that makes kidney beans just a great option for that area?
I think it falls into whether it's North Dakota, Minnesota, Wisconsin, or Michigan. Oftentimes more of the canning bean belt, right? These are the beans that are grown with maybe a little bit more moisture in the air. They're harvested not quite as dry as you might find with beans from more of the arid climates like Nebraska or Colorado, or even California or Washington for that matter. The other thing that we find is with kidney beans is they have more value because they're a bigger bean, and that larger bean, unlike a black bean or maybe a pinto bean or a navy bean, when you put that kidney bean in a can under pressure, if it has a cracked seed coat, if the skin of the bean has a crack in it, it's going to blow up in the can, and you'll see more of a visible inside the white part of that. And so our kidney bean farmers over the years have understood really easily about specialty combines. They cut beans, they use a one-step and put them in windrows, and then come along with a special harvester to minimize the damage to that skin. And so, our growers are paid a premium on the high quality beans that they bring to us that don't have cracks in that skin. And that's been a really important factor. And it's been something that we've worked hard to achieve over all the years, that it was still that cosmetically beautiful bean that's there. And it has lots of nutrients as well, but it is beautiful. I think it got its start on salad bars. And so when salad bars were first coming out in the 70s, 80s, where it was a thing, you found two kinds of beans on them, a dark red kidney bean and a garbanzo bean or a chickpea. So those were the two mainstays, and we tend to think that that's what gave kidney beans a jump above just chili in the Midwest, because we use kidney beans in our chili here, not pinto beans like lots of regions do. So it's very much a regional type thing. But anyway, our soil conditions have been right. Our growers have had the patience to use specialty combines. That's why dark red kidney beans, light red kidney beans, and white kidney beans command a higher price, because they don't yield quite as high, and they need a special harvester to keep them whole and in check.
Those are great points, right? Because a lot of people, if they don't spend their lives living the bean life necessarily, they wouldn't know that, right? These are beans that they take a little bit extra love and care. And so that relationship that, Chippewa has with your growers is really important. And I've heard some of your growers say, you're the only ones who can really process my beans well and then have them come out perfectly. So it's a processor. There's a big processor aspect as well. So the growers are working very hard at this, and so are you with all the technology and the equipment that you have there. Do you want to share a little bit about kind of the importance of that grower-processor relationship?
Oh, yes. I always tell people the only reason Chippewa Valley Bean exists is to make sure that our growers have a place to market their beans, and to make sure that our end users have a place to buy beans. So we're here in the very middle of that supply chain. And without either end, there wouldn't be a reason for us. So, my goal over all these years, and a company goal, has been, we have to make sure that we take care of both ends of that supply chain. And there's certain years we're going to have higher prices that will benefit a grower, or lower prices that may benefit an end user. But over time, everybody has to make money. And if they don't, there's no reason for us. So how do we encourage growers to do the right thing and help them understand how to create that good kidney bean? Well, earlier in the years when I was growing up, my dad and partner had worked with these combines that I originally talked about. They were Bidwell combines, or Bob Equipment combines, and we sold them. We worked on them with research and development. We got them to work better, and over the years sold a lot of them to help growers really do a better job. And I think every year since he started growing in 1969, Chelsea, that the quality of the bean crop that comes to us, for the most part, has had to improve, and our process has had to improve. In the early days, it may have just been a fanning mill, a regular, feed elevator that they used to clean these beans. And today, it's a full-on food production plant that has all kinds of technology, from color sorters to magnets to various processing pieces of equipment and needle machines, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Lots and lots of stuff that we make sure that the bean that comes in is sorted and sized and has the best color and goes through our system without much damage. It's been extremely important, and being able to supply our customers with the bean that they're looking for day in and day out has made us valuable to them, just as we've been to our growers, where we say, sometimes Mother Nature doesn't deal you a very good hand. It may be that you're trying to harvest your crop and you've got too much moisture. Well, we have a multitude, like 3 or 4 bean dryers, that we actually will bring beans in and dry them for our growers to make sure that they can still have a market to sell their beans. We have the capacity to store their beans separately. If they have another problem, another quality problem, we'll bring them in, we'll hold them separately, and we'll find a home for them. But I think the mainstay here has been that these farmers grow one crop a year. They go to the casino when they plant those seeds. They put them in the ground and they have one chance. And if it doesn't turn out, their loss for the year is huge. It's not like a manufacturing company that can just do another round of widgets. These people have one chance. And so as a processor, we wear our hat that says, we understand where you are. We're a family of farmers too. And we're going to do everything we can to market your crop, no matter what. And so I think that's been an important factor for us.
Absolutely. It's a powerful and important relationship, and the role that both sides play is critical. I've gotten to meet some of your growers, and they're wonderful, and you can tell that it's mutual, right? You both have just a happy relationship and understanding of, this is teamwork, we're going to get this done. And so, Cindy, about how many, if you can share with us, about how many growers do you work with? What's kind of the volume of kidney beans that Chippewa may be processing every year?
Well, we work with about 100 family farmers, give or take, on the year. And, Chelsea, some of them are third generation bean growers. That just makes me so happy to see that they come back. And, the other thing that they'll tell me is that year after year, even with their crop rotations, it's been kidney beans that's kept the value on the farm. And I'm like, gosh, I'm so happy to hear that, because we've worked really hard to try and maintain a pricing structure that allows that to happen. We try to do a really good job, so we manage production and try not to have oversupplies, because that doesn't do anybody any good. And I think it was a challenging time from the point that we had steel and aluminum tariffs put on, and retaliatory tariffs, and the retaliatory tariffs in Europe, which is our largest market for export. There were 25% retaliatory tariffs, and that was at the detriment of suppliers here in the U.S. and our growers. So the tariffs went away, but in the meantime, we had a lot of inventory, and then COVID came, and I think globally, we saw a ramp up of demand for beans. Oh my gosh, at the front side of COVID, we couldn't ship enough. We couldn't make enough fast enough, and our canners couldn't supply everything. Oh, everybody was putting 4 cans of each bean type, blacks, navies, pintos, into their kidneys, into their pantries. But we couldn't judge when that was over or whether it was going to go on. And it left the entire, I think, bean pulse world in a bit of a lurch, because it was something we'd never experienced before. And the outcome of what food went where, and we saw consumers go from eating in restaurants to eating at home, and the whole dynamics of it changed. So it was hard to read what inventory was needed. So hence, we had some overproduction for a little while. But what we'll do is, as I said, we'll ramp up for where we see the demand, and we'll cut back when we see it coming back through. The International Year of Pulses was 2016, and after that, we saw a 10 to 12% growth in kidney beans forever. And it wasn't until COVID that things got messed up. So we're back now with a microscope trying to figure out, where are we? What is the actual supply and demand?
Wow, so many dynamics there, right? There's the dynamics just within the United States and then globally. So balancing all of that, I'm sure, is challenging to say the least. What are some of the ways that you're seeing demand for kidney beans, or how kidney beans are used in some of the markets that do use kidney beans a lot? I know you mentioned on salad bars is a common way, maybe in some chilies, some stews, but what are other ways that folks might be using kidney beans around the world?
The Mediterranean diet, the diet in the blue zones, the focus on healthier eating for people and planets is a bit of a opportunity for us. But I think overall, there's just a staple of beans that are used in people's lives. So in the U.S., we tend to eat regionally. So here in, Wisconsin, Minnesota, we may use more kidney beans in our chili. Put them in salads. Every family has a traditional way that they eat beans. Our baked beans in Wisconsin and Minnesota and North Dakota are probably going to be a navy bean or a pea bean, right? Navy pea bean, my international people call it. In New Orleans, in the French area, you may find that the kidney bean they use is a light red kidney bean. But in other parts of the world, you're going to find different bean types. So a Great Northern is used in a cassoulet, or sometimes it's used in baked beans. And in the Caribbean, they talk about peas and rice, and those peas are actually beans, right? A white kidney bean in Europe is used in a multitude of things. Most of the time, they're sold dry, but you might find them in jars or cans as well. Different ways that I see it in some of the European product may be canned with tuna. There's a Mexican pack that's got tuna and corn and dark red kidney beans and some oil and red peppers in it. It's amazing. It's really, really good. And so things like that. And in Japan, they may very well use them as a sweet. They may be ground into a sweet paste. I look at Japan and I look at some of what they're doing, like their 7-Elevens would be similar to Quick Trips here in Mindak. We have so many Quick Trip gas stations and Casey's. But at 7-Eleven in Tokyo, you're going to find a hot dog with chili on the top, and that's got dark red kidney beans in it. Oh, that's cool. Or you may find a nutritional protein bowl at a restaurant that has some kidney beans in it. Or Starbucks has a Southwestern wrap in Japan that's got kidney beans in it. You find different areas that people are willing to take off and use that bean. It's a big bean, it's pretty, and it's very noticeable when you put it into things. They put their beans in a very small package. It may be 2 servings. And they're shelf stable. They have no brine. They've been cooked and then put in this little pouch. And they'll hang them next to the lettuce. And when you go buy your lettuce at the supermarket, you pick up a pack of those beans. You might find mixed beans. And then you take them home, you just open them up and you dump them on the top of your salad as a condiment. And oftentimes I think about when we go to the grocery store and we look at fresh things that we're going to buy pre-done and ready, how many times we might benefit if somebody took the approach of saying, you know what, here's a package of beans, I'm just going to hang it next to the lettuce or whatever as a ingredient that's going to top that lettuce salad. But my encouragement for people, and you notice by the way I post recipes, of course I post a lot of recipes, and I'll always say kidney beans would be better in this recipe. It might not have any beans in it at all, but by golly, listen to that old term, it's going to benefit from having beans. I think how we need to eat is that we need to eat, maybe we don't want to give up our meat. I mean, that's a given. Many of our farmers grow meat along with their beans, and so we don't want to throw one protein source out. But we'd be so much healthier, as would the world, if we just maybe had a littler portion of meat and beans along the side of it. So how do we do that? And how do we encourage that? I think back to 2016 and our push in the US, and actually in Canada, it was more of a partnership. The half cup habit, half a cup of pulses a day is so healthy. And you come from that background. I mean, let's eat a can of beans a day. We'd all be better, right? We'd be thinner. We'd have more energy. Our systems would work better. What more could you ask for?
Yeah, right. Well, like you said, 1 can, half cup habit. Why stop there? Go for maybe 1.5 cups, right? I got to chat recently with Dr. Henry Thompson, and he was saying, at least half a cup. If we could really maybe get in 1.5 cups a day, that's more kind of the sweet spot of where we'll be seeing a lot of these health benefits. And like you said, all these global trends. I love your idea of having beans with the produce in the US, for example, because we do associate with sometimes, it's easy to add beans to salad, but if they're not there, we might not think about it. Whereas as you're picking up the lettuce, if there were a little pouch of beans, I think that'd be very helpful. It's that visual reminder that, oh, these are delicious and they're nutritious. What more can you want? And so as you're looking at all this global inspiration, you're kind of drawing upon that. I know some of that has come from the incredible travels you've been on through all your many hats. And one of the hats I'd like to dive into a little bit is the Global Pulse Confederation. So you were the first female president, which is very exciting for me. I'm sure obviously for you as well, but I was thrilled that, that was you in that role. So you're a wonderful role model for a lot of us. And I was curious if you could just share a little bit about what GPC is, kind of what you do, and then I do want to ask what it was like being the first female president too.
Global Pulse Confederation goes back, it has a little bit of history. It was actually called Cecil's Iptic, and it was started in France, and it was a very European organization. And about 15 years ago, I think we moved to Dubai, and we wanted when I say we as an organization, we wanted to have a better representation of pulses, because if you look at pulse consumption, North America and Europe are not the mainstays. We see the Middle East, we see India, we see Pakistan, we see a number of different areas of the world that really eat a lot more pulses than we do. And so GPC had an opportunity to move in and do a broader base aspect for pulses as a whole. And it was a really interesting organization when I first joined. And over the years, I have to say that with a few people, Gavin Gibson from Australia, Tim McGreevy from America, Gordon Bacon from Canada, and Randy Duckworth now as the CEO of Global Pulse Confederation, they brought to it the elements of a trade association. And they brought to it good governance and bylaws that work. And really, from the point that Paul Lambert from the U.S. was a president when I first joined, and I joined because Paul said, Cindy, if you're going to be in the export business, you need to be at GPC, because there's all kinds of things that are discussed, and there's an opportunity to understand international trade from GAFTA, which is the contract terms that we trade under, to regulations throughout the world, whether it's Codex as part of the UN, whether it's FAO or World Food Program or WTO. This is the area where we will find opportunities to work together and solve problems within the global trade. And that's been what it is. Over the years, it's been fine-tuned. It's come together, and I'm proud to have been a part of it. So we formulated the International Year of the Pulses. It was Hakan Bashici's idea. He encouraged us to go to the UN, through FAO, Food and Agricultural Organization, as one of the divisions of the UN, and get it started. We started as early as 2012, where we formed a committee of people to shepherd it through the various levels that we had to, because it was, you're probably familiar with going to Washington, D.C. and working on policy. And we have all of our senators and our congressional representatives, and as our trade associations knock on doors, and we go educate them about things that are important to us in beans, peas, lentils, and chickpeas. Well, you take that on a global scale, and you're working with Burkina Faso, and you're working with Ireland, and you're working with Kenya, and you're around the world. And so you have to get all these countries involved to approve what you're asking for. And it was a long shot, but we worked really hard together and hired a great team, Emerging Ag, headed by Robin Anderson, to help us get it in front of the right parties and bring it to the forefront. But what that did, Chelsea, is we had 4 different pillars that we worked on that were important for pulses throughout the world. And GPC has taken those pillars. We've developed the Colombo Accord, which still addresses them, and World Pulses Day, which is February 10th every year. And we've been able to highlight the importance of pulses going forward. Now, what do we do at this point? Well, we're working on food systems. And let's talk about people, healthy people. Let's talk about planets. Let's talk about regions where pulses are grown. And you can take it so far as to say, okay, your people of your age and your technology, and your husband is going to go to the grocery store, and he's going to take his cell phone out, and he's going to scan the QR code on that package, and it's going to tell him of the food that he's purchased, where it was grown, and if it was environmentally friendly. And we look at technology and our ability to make a difference in food systems and what we eat, to do a better job with world production. And as consumers, we can speak by how we buy food. And I think pulses are such a good product that we can do that with, because we're on the right side of it. We use less nitrogen, we use less water, and we can really take people back to times when they were eating the three sisters, right? You know about the three sisters. All right, so squash and corn and beans, right? So there you have it. That's just, we're the modern day of that. And we're good for the environment. We're good for people. I think, we think about how healthy pulses are, and we think about diabetes as being the gateway disease to all the other things that can go wrong in our systems. And you think, okay, if I can just control some of my body's problems by a diet that's nutritionally sound, can I stave off diabetes? Does that help me take care of heart disease? Does that help me take care of blood pressure? How is it that pulses can be part of that diet? And just think if we were able to do a national study, an economic study on the benefits of consuming pulses, that half a cup a day, and what it would do to the cost of our health care.
Yes, no, that's a really good point. I've seen maybe a couple studies come out, I think one in Canada, one in New Zealand or Australia, that area, and diving into some of the economics, and it is powerful. Adding more pulses to the diet has huge wins for human health, and also realistically for the cost of treating chronic disease, it drops dramatically. It's a really big deal. So I'm so thankful that you are engaging in that work at so many different levels. And you brought up the International Year of Pulses, also World Pulses Day. These are great celebrations, right? I'm glad that Pulses had a whole year dedicated to them, and that every year they have one day. Although I think both of us would argue that we should be having Pulses every day. But from those holidays or from that full year, what are a couple of the key kind of takeaways, or have you seen any changes happen due to International Year of Pulses? You mentioned that you saw some increase in demand for kidney beans, but any other noticeable trends that you saw?
I think that was much of what we were seeing, is that the ongoing media attention, having more notoriety in social circles, more blogs, more recipes, more aspects out there. We did see more trends of people eating healthier. And it's an area that industry-wide, we don't have a lot of money for. How do we get that link from those of us in the industry that know it to getting it out to the young mom who just had a baby and she needs a better diet herself? And how great it would be if she taught her child how to eat pulses or beans as they grow up. So that's the takeaway. How do we do that? But the trend is not so much, they're somewhat done in beans, but in other pulses, yellow peas, some green peas, and chickpeas, we're seeing more pet food. My goodness, if our pets know how healthy this is, why don't we, right? I mean, more and more of those products are going into pet food. Hey folks, if we're taking care of our pet, what about you? Are you taking care of yourself? Think about it. So
Cindy, that's a really good and kind of sad point that I hadn't made that connection. You're right. They have been going more into pet food, but we'll feed our pets healthier food, but we won't always eat it. So food for thought. But for those who are listening, and I mean, pulses just are so powerful to make a positive impact on our lives, on the lives of loved ones. What are a couple key messages that you might want someone to hear? If there were like 2 or 3 things that you wanted to relay about why we should be adding more pulses to our diet, this delicious, healthy, sustainable food, 2 or 3 kind of main key takeaways for people, or highlights of this is a good reason to add pulses.
Your own health. This is the reason to add pulses. We're high in fiber. We're low in fat. We help you feel full longer. We're low on the glycemic index, so we give you more energy over a longer period of time. We're easy to incorporate into any dish that you put on the table. Any dish. I have a friend who uses boxed macaroni and cheese, and she mixes kidney beans with it. Go figure. one of the southern dishes that I wasn't aware of at all, it was called Shelly beans, where you take green beans and you put some pinto beans with it, and you just serve this wonderful little dish with a little bit of bacon in it. Oh my goodness, the flavor of that is amazing. And it doesn't take much, but what it does take is it takes an enlightened cook that says, I want to do more for my family. I don't want to feed my kids chicken nuggets every day. I don't want to feed my child this fast food diet. And I may have grown up on that, but I want to change. And the vision that what we're growing and what we're producing and the whole aspect about what our world looks like as we're polluting it. No one ever did it because we were bad. We did it because we didn't know better. But now that we know better, how can we make a difference? How can we choose products to put on our plate that are better for us and better for the environment? So, does it take a new mindset with younger adults? And maybe I see that more. We don't have to be vegetarians. We don't have to be non-meat eaters or vegans. We can be flexitarians. And we can choose to say, you know what? These are really good for me, so I'm going to include them every day, a little bit, a little bit.
Yeah. Well, even things like you said, the macaroni and cheese with kidney beans in it. What a beautiful pop of color. You're adding texture, you're adding nutrition. Simple, small steps are a great way to get there. We don't have to be vegan, like you said, don't have to be vegetarian. These are foods that can really go into anything. And I've seen some recipes on your website. I remember at Bean Day, North Harvest Bean Day, not this most recent one, but the prior one, we actually got chatting about the kidney bean brownies on your recipe page. And I immediately, when I got back home to Colorado, I whipped up a batch. They're my new favorite bean brownies. So people always think black beans for brownies, but kidney beans, right? So
right. With a little bit of peanut butter and gluten-free. I mean, goodness sakes, you can use some coconut oil in them. They're delicious. International Year of Pulses, December of 2015. We were challenging everybody in the office. We had a calendar and we shared lunches for the entire month. Somebody took a challenge and came in with a dish that was going to feed us that included beans and stretch the limit. My mom made an apple crisp and she put kidney beans in it. But you know what? It was pretty decent. It would not be the normal thing that you'd have, but it was not bad. Or, you think about, with white kidney beans, did you look at that bean budino recipe on the website? It's a little putsy, but white kidney beans pureed with a little, you could use rum or rum extract, little cinnamon. You make your own caramel sauce, and then you make a beautiful butterscotch pudding. Put it in a half-pint canning jar with the beans on the bottom pureed with that cinnamon and rum flavor, the butterscotch pudding on the top, and then homemade salted caramel sauce. Or you could go to Trader Joe's and buy their caramel sauce. It's a quick and easy step. Chelsea, it is elegant dining to eat that. And CIA, Culinary Institute of America, has done some amazing things. We see some of the food service areas in universities trying to make a difference, putting more pulses in every one of I think of Michigan going to MSU, right? And you've been there and you see their main dining room and they have all of these different stations for different cuisines. And just about every one of them has some kind of a pulse in it. Delicious. There was a recipe this morning I subscribe to Cooking at New York Times. And this morning's was red lentil, a cacciatore. And I've made this recipe before. It's red lentils with some tomato paste and a few capers and some red peppers. And for those folks who just don't want red lentils, like my husband, I threw some chicken breast in with it because you know what is cacciatore? You always think of chicken cacciatore, right? I mean, with a whole piece. That was amazing. I'll send you the recipe because it is really well worth making. There's an old style recipe for kidney beans that when I was growing up, or even before my time, supper clubs. You went to a supper club in Wisconsin or Minnesota. So you went to the supper club, you had a brandy old fashioned, but they always started the meal with a relish tray, and carrots and celery, and it didn't have a vegetable dip. It was just the carrots and celery, and you might have a little scoop of some kind of cheese spread and a few crackers, and then there was a kidney bean salad, and it was a salad with chopped up hard-boiled eggs, some pickle relish, whether you use sweet probably versus dill, some onions and celery, and a little bit of a light mayonnaise dressing, or you could thin it with some buttermilk. You'd be so surprised, Chelsea. Today, as you make that recipe, I'm just like, this is so good. Why did they ever stop? But I think over time, people's tastes change, right? My mom and my dad, kidney bean lover, he has a recipe that's his favorite, and it's just simply a sweet sour recipe. So if you think about a 3-bean salad or a 5-bean salad that used green beans, wax beans, and then maybe three kinds of dry beans, he's like, no, we have a family. We have a kidney bean salad, and it's that same dressing with onions and celery and peppers, and it's a sweet sour base, and it may have some pimentos in it, and we call it the wedding, funeral, baptism, graduation salad. It's a salad for every occasion.
It sounds fantastic.
So anyway, I just chuckle along the way because we've had fun with recipes. There was one time I had actually, Chippewa Valley had a small company on the side that was doing dry soup mixes. And we had a Chippewa chili, and the difference with the Chippewa chili is it used corn and carrots, and so it was a little bit different. And there was a peppered pinto, which was probably very much like the pot of beans that a Hispanic family in the Southwest would put on in the morning, and they would cook all day, and they'd eat it in a tortilla throughout the day, or maybe it was breakfast, maybe it was dinner, but it was bacon, and it was onions, and it was a little bit of spice, and it just cooked, and it was so smoky and so flavorful. Well, that was my peppered pinto recipe. And then I had a pasta fagioli, so it was kidney beans and cannellini beans mixed together with the various Italian flavors for a pasta fagioli. Oh, and then there was a bean creole, because we're going to go to New Orleans for that, and it was a light red kidney bean with a mixture of the peppers, onions, and celery, the triune of the flavors that they used there, and with a bottle of Tabasco sauce included. So
of course.
We just had fun. We just had fun with those. But I quit doing it when I realized that it took me more time to sell a 12-pack case of that than it did a whole container of beans.
Yes, I guess that would factor in.
You have to look at where your priorities are. But it was fun. It was fun.
That's it though, right? It can be really fun. So people can get into their own kitchens and just kind of experiment with beans. If you're short on time, you can use a can of beans, right? They're hacks to make it easier. And you went through so many fantastic recipe ideas that my stomach is grumbling, but I'm curious, of the recipes you mentioned, is there one particular one that is, hard to pick number one favorite, but is one of your favorites if you're going to send recipes to someone? Which of those might be one of your, okay, well, this is my personal favorite, I'll send you this type of recipes?
Well, it's funny because, I have a lot of bean recipes I really, really like. My salad recipes kind of fluctuate. I use a kidney bean, mandarin orange, pepper, cabbage, with Brianna's dressing. Are you familiar with that brand? A blush dressing on the top of it, and let it marinate, and it is so good. The one I talked about with the hard-boiled eggs in it is really good. There's a very interesting recipe that was traditionally a corn, Frito, cheese, sour cream type dressing one. You can make it better with kidney beans, and it's so much prettier. All right, so there's a Tex-Mex one. Oh, I know another one that I make. It's got kidney beans and shell pasta with a sweet Western type dressing. So onions and peppers and celery with kidney beans, pasta, and that type of a dressing on it. Go to your deli and look at what they've got for salads or main dishes and say, what beans should I put in that? So there's another one that I like that I tried to imitate it was a summer salad with cabbage and tomatoes and cucumbers and, the other various, maybe some peppers and onions. And it had a coleslaw or mayonnaise type base dressing on it. It was just delicious, so fresh. I'd buy that thing and I'd just come home and dump the kidney beans in it and take it to every potluck I went to. So I don't have a favorite recipe, Chelsea. There's a recipe that I have come to love that I got off the Bush website, and it uses chickpeas. It's chickpeas and a little bit of tomatoes. It's feta cheese, and I can't remember what else is in it, but you bake it and I'll send it to you. It is to die for. The flavor of it is so good. That's another spot that has fantastic recipes, of course, is the Bush website or the S&W Foods website. Add kidney beans to your scalloped potatoes. A little bit of color. Always think of the color. Maybe if you don't want kidney beans, add black beans. One of the things I did with my nieces and nephews, I have twin nieces and my nephew, when they were about 5 and 7, the age difference, we set all the beans on the counter. So we had plain navy beans, we had black beans, we had kidney beans, light red, dark red, white, and we had baked beans. And we opened up every can, and just like a wine tasting, we had bean tasting. So do that with your kids. Educate them on, right? Or my peers that are out there listening to this, do that with your grandchildren. Open up every kind of can that you can find of beans and tell the story.
Cindy, that's a brilliant idea. I love that. I like working with kids on dry beans too and showing them, but I'm always kind of afraid that they're going to pop them in their mouths, and you don't want that happening with dry beans. So this is a wonderful idea. Open the can, they can try it. I love it. Good tasting.
So I have to tell you that their favorite were the brown beans. So they loved Bush's baked beans. That was their favorite. So
what's not to love?
Absolutely.
So, all right, if somebody says, I only have 15 minutes, I'm looking for just something really quick, I'm interested in adding more beans or other pulses to my diet after hearing all the delicious ways you eat them and all the benefits, what would be, assuming no dietary restrictions, what would be that recipe or at least tip that you would give them? It could be one of the ones you've already said. You've given so many. I'm writing them down.
So just the quick part of it is just open a can of beans, drain them and rinse them, and put them into whatever it is you're making. Any type of soup, any type of stew, any type of dish that you have that uses a mixture in it. Any type of salad. It's great on lettuce salads, but think about all the other salads that you make along the way. Take the can of beans, or you've cooked your beans from scratch and you've got them in the fridge. Warm them up a little bit. Put some olive oil on top and put a handful of herbs in there. They're flavor carriers. They take the taste of whatever you put on them. White kidney beans coming in at harvest time, I throw them in a pot, cook them up a little bit. When they're warm, I douse them with olive oil and herbs, and everybody who comes through the door is like, these are amazing. And they are. And we can do that with any kind of bean. I feel like Mr. Food, right?
No, these are all such real comments. You're right. Beans are pretty amazing by themselves, right? If you have some delicious beans, like you mentioned, you can add some herbs and olive oil. You can do that. You can draw from global cuisines for that inspiration. Or you can do something really easy, like you were mentioning. It doesn't even have to be a new recipe. Take what you're already making and add some beans to it, because it might surprise you just how well they blend in. And with all the different colors, shapes, textures, flavors of beans, it's easy to find a bean that fits. So thank you for those tips.
One more thing, stealth. Think about these kids that don't maybe like the big feel of the bean or their textures, right? Puree some beans and mix it with your spaghetti sauce. Mix it on a pureed basis into something that, you may be using white beans or kidney beans or whatever, but the color is such that they won't know. Mash them up in the hamburger that you're using for your tacos.
Exactly. It's kind of stealth
Yeah,
health approach. Or like smoothies too. They can go really well in smoothies.
there's lots of ways.
Exactly. There's really no limit. So it's just our imaginations and we get to explore in the kitchen. So Cindy, if people want to find out more about what you're up to, more about Chippewa Valley Bean, where's a good place for them to look?
Well, our website is there, so it's cvbean.com. And when I was president of GPC, unfortunately, it was during COVID. Maybe fortunately, we had to figure out how to reinvent the organization because we couldn't come together. So we did a lot of online conventions. We brought information to the industry about different markets and what was happening with production. So there's a lot of me out there. If you want to, if you want to learn more about me or more about the Pulse world, you can probably just say, "Oh, there she is."
No, they would be more excited. There she is, not there she is, right? There's a difference. And GPC does put out so many great resources. I really enjoy the publications, the articles, all of that Pulse Pod, a lot of fun, digestible resources for people. So you have shared so much with us already. I truly am not just saying this, I could talk to you for days, but I also want to respect your time. So are there any parting words or things that you don't feel like you got to mention that you'd like to? We might have to do a part two because I still have more questions for you, but anything you want to end on?
Yeah, there is one thing because I think it's really, really important. And I want to come back to this piece about women in agriculture because I think that's so, so important. I go to some of these international events, and for the last few years, 3 as a matter of fact, I've had the opportunity to speak a little bit at USA Dry Pea and Lentil Council's event, which is in Dubai. They invite many of their international buyers, and oftentimes there's a full room of people from countries like perhaps Pakistan or India that maybe don't have women in family businesses, right? It may not be the custom to invite your daughter into business, but I always go up on the stage and I say, you know what? I was given this chance, and I look at all of you guys and I say, this is multiple generations in your family businesses. And I just look forward to the day that you continue to bring your daughters in because I see your sons. And don't be afraid to ask your daughters because I think you'll be surprised at the work that they can do for you. And we're starting to see more of it, Chelsea, and I'm pretty excited over that because globally, we don't have as many women in agriculture as we might have. One of the things that I tried to do with GPC is I tried to acknowledge the women who were in the business, right? And so at the gala dinner, I would look around the room and say, hey, come on up to the stage. Let's recognize the women that are here. And so this year we were in Delhi. So that was where we were. And one of my friends reminded me, hey, Cindy, we haven't been, you promised every convention you would do this. So we were outside dining. There was stuff going on in another room. So I said, come on, everybody. We were outside. We collected everyone from the tables. Come on in. And we went up and we said, hey, the music was playing and we're coming on stage. I just want to take this minute. I know I'm not president anymore, but I want to take a minute. I want to invite all of the women in the Pulse world to come to the stage and let's recognize you because we're here not because we're women. We are here because we can do the job and we are very competent. And we'd like to see a better equity balance of more women that are allowed to come into the family business or that bring a different approach to business, a different approach. So we are all on the stage and I got the president's wife, Mr. VJ Iyengar's wife on the stage with me. And VJ said, okay, we're taking pictures. Can I come up? I said, VJ, you can come to the stage as long as you promise that you're going to go after gender equity on our GPC board. So if our board of directors will have equal balance of women and men, you're welcome on the stage. And he high-fived me. So Chelsea, you heard it here.
I love that. And Cindy, I'm so glad you brought this up. I got so caught up in the natural flow of our conversation that I forgot one of the most important questions, which was along this line. I've heard from a lot of my friends and colleagues who are working in agriculture in some context, right? often, whether it's as a field rep or whether it's as a farmer or some other part of agriculture, food systems, that it can be challenging. We're not always on an even playing field, so to speak. And so really appreciate your advocacy there, and wondering whether this is a comment directed at folks who want to help create more equal playing field, or whether this is encouragement for women in ag. Do you have any words there to share?
It always helps to be given recognition. I mean, to go out and search for something that you want to do. And honestly, I've been so lucky to be in my job, to have had the experience and the exposure. My family has, my parents, my dad has been really an advocate, saying, you know, you can do this job, and allowed me to come in and do it. And I have a couple of our growers that farms are actually being managed by daughters, which is just amazing to me as I watch that. I see more women who are standing up and raising their hands and saying, you know, this is something that I can do. So we sometimes have to overcome our fear of not being able to or not fitting in. We go back to the adage of the young lady on the playground that's directing people and saying, do this or do that. You know, she's accused of being bossy. But the young man who's doing that is being called the leader. And those are just the things that we need to overcome. We're not being bossy. And so many times we have to do it, maybe, Chelsea, 3 times instead of once. And I've been lucky to have had good friends who have been advocates, who have supported me, who have been the ones that said, you got to keep doing this. You have to do this for this girl in Bangladesh. You have to do this for this girl in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. You have to do this for this girl in Manchester, London, England. You know, you need to be there. You need to stand up and be a role model, just as you are, just as Courtney is, just as Robin Anderson from Emerging Ag, just as Sarah Rose from Bush Brothers. You know, there's a multitude of people who've come before us, or with us, or within your generation. We can do this. We just have to help each other. Welcome, open our arms and say, come on in, how can I help you?
That's beautifully said. It's a very complex question, and I think you did an amazing job answering it. Thanks for sharing your insights and your advocacy there for pulses, for women in agriculture, and for so many other things. And I will definitely be following up with you. I will obviously be cooking some of your recipes in the very near future, and naturally for World Pulses Day too. So I'm writing it on my schedule for next February already.
So remember that whatever you're doing, you have to like what you're doing. If you think you've got the best job in the world, then it's going to be a pleasure every day. And if you're not doing that, you should probably find something else. So I've been lucky. The majority of my life, I've had the best job in the world. So I hope you do too.
I truly feel that way, and I also don't think I could end this on any better note than that. So I'm gonna leave it there. Thank you so much for joining and sharing your time and all your experience, Cindy. You are a wonderful role model.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. It's always great to talk to you.